Hi there. In this video, I'm going to go through in pretty good detail how to download transactions and categorize them after you've set up an account. I also go through some other things like adjusting the opening balance so that inevitably the account will reconcile. I talk about some settings that you want to have on and off in Quicken so that downloading and categorizing in the future gets easier and has less errors. Hopefully you find it helpful. I'll see you in there. I'm Joe DiSanto, by the way. I'm an independent CFO and business consultant. I actually spent most of my career in Los Angeles building a few multi-million-dollar businesses, and I've since semi-retired, and now I help other businesses and individuals manage their money and plan better for their future. So if you're interested in small business, personal finance, and real estate advice, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks. Hello again. Okay, moving on here. Just finished that video about connecting a bank account, and if you watch that, where we left off is we connected and it downloaded a certain amount of transactions here ready to be input. Okay. Now, every bank is a little bit different, as I mentioned, about how far back they'll go with automatically downloading transactions when you first set up an account. Bank of America went back about 2 months. So if you're in the case where you're like, oh, I'm going to be really good about this and I'm actually going to go and fill in all the information up to January 1st so I can have a full complete years of information, particularly for taxes, but also just for the knowledge. I'm going to show you how to go back and do that. I often have to be doing that if I start with a new client. But before we add in all this stuff, I want to show you a couple preferences that are important. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. If you go to Preferences and you go to Data Entry and Quick Fill, there's a couple things I want you to have on. Over here, there's the default click should be fine, but over here I want to make sure that you have this clicked. Offer to update past transactions when a category is changed. Click that, but don't click only when updating uncategorized transactions. And I'm going to show you the benefit of this. And this is beneficial, especially when you're setting up an account for the first time and you're going to put in a ton of transactions and start categorizing for the first time. And then over here under downloaded transactions, you can have automatically categorized transactions, automatically apply quick and suggested names, capitalize first letters, that's fine. Use my existing renaming rules, I'll explain that a little bit. Automatically create rules when I rename payees. Let me review. Okay, so yeah, that's all good. Have all those checked. Okay, so the other thing is you can adjust the way the register looks. I like to have my register be a 2-line display because it kind of reminds me of a checkbook. And I also, over here, you can click on and off different things to display. I get rid of this amount thing. I don't know why. That amount thing to me is redundant. Here in the register, you're either going to have money going out or payment, money going in a deposit, and then the balance. That's kind of what you want. And then here we have category, tag, and memo. They're all under one thing, under payee. So that's on. You can toggle category, memo, or tag off. I use all three of those. We're not going to use tags at first, so I'm going to take tags off. And then the downloaded payee name is kind of important to have. This is what's going to show the bank data that comes through. All right. You're also going to see here opening balance. So when you set up an account for the first time, Quicken's pretty smart. It downloads what it's willing to download. And then after all this is put in order for your online balance and your ending balance in your register to match up, it puts in this opening balance kind of adjustment amount so that everything is in line. Now, because we're going to go all the way back to January 1st, what I'm going to do eventually is change this amount, because I'm going to need to get the opening balance on December 31st, 2020. But I'll walk you through that. So you can set in the preferences where like these transactions are automatically put in the register. I don't do that because I like to look at everything before it goes in, okay, and make sure it's cool. Now, just a heads up, a lot of times bank accounts, you know, you're downloading stuff and it's going in the register as you download it. But you might have paid a bill, like let's say for instance on this Zelle transfer that you see here. Say I had, you know, that was a Zelle transfer. I sent money to someone to do some repairs, and I didn't, you know, I didn't want to wait to put it in my register because, you know, I just wanted to know that I had this outstanding transaction, right? Kind of like, you know, when you used to handwrite stuff in your register before computers. But let's see. So say I had that in the register. I think I have real estate categories hidden, maybe. Oh no, here they are. Rent, property, expenses. Let's just say I categorize that as cleaning and maintenance, right? Well, if I already have that transaction in the register that I've manually put in before I downloaded, you'll notice here that it recognizes it and says, oh, this transaction's already in your register, so instead of adding something new, I'm just going to match up the download with this, okay? And if I accept that, you're going to see that it goes in with a cleared mark, not reconciled, cleared. And then it actually started to almost put in this next one, but I'm going to, that's fine. But now to get started, I just wanted to point that out. I am going to accept all these transactions, okay? And we're going to see what happens. Okay, so you're going to see that Quicken does try to automatically categorize a bunch of stuff. And that can be helpful, but honestly, a lot of times, and more often than not, off the bat, it gets it wrong. Okay, so and this is important to note because every time a transaction goes into Quicken and you categorize it whatever and it has a name associated with it, it gets memorized, and Quicken tries to learn how all your categories, you know, what you generally categorize stuff to, and it starts to try to do the work for you, which is good. But because, you know, the AI, I guess, involved with that is still getting better, a lot of times it gets it wrong initially, and then it memorizes the wrong thing, and then it just becomes this annoying thing where you're constantly having to go back and correct it. So you want to, when you first do this, you want to try to correct those things as much as you know, correct them, and then I'm going to show you how to remove the memorized transactions so that the next time you put stuff in, it doesn't get as many things automatically wrong, okay? Now this checking account is actually for a rental property, a couple rental properties, so it doesn't have a lot of transactions, which is actually why I'm using it as an example, so I didn't have to go through and categorize too many things. But I'm going to categorize stuff essentially for what it actually is. Now, this one here, I'm surprised it didn't recognize this, but this is bank fees. So I'm going to, I could put it to bank fees, but this is a bank fee under living expenses. And I actually want to do a bank fee under rental real estate. I could do it a couple ways. I could do it the way you were just kind of seeing, but I'm going to go into categories here so you can see a little bit more about what's going on with categories. And I'm going to make, under rental property expenses, I'm going to make a new subcategory called bank fees. Now, in one of my previous videos, I mentioned reporting and using groups and I use groups, and so when I make this category, I put the group real estate. Eventually, I'm going to do videos on that kind of reporting, so it'll, if you get to those, it'll be a little more clear what groups do, but I'm going to add the group in there. And then you'll see I got a new category under bank fees under real estate. I'm going to go over here, I'm going to type in bank fees again, and now I'm going to have two options. I'm going to go with the real estate one. Now, this might come up. This is what's going to come up, and this is related to the preferences that I showed you earlier, where it said basically if you change, when you're within one account like this, one register, if there are multiple transactions that are the same, like same monthly bank thing that comes through, if I change the category in one of them, it'll ask me if I want to change the category in all of them. And oftentimes you're going to say yes to this. Most of the time you are, and it's very handy actually when you're trying to categorize a lot of stuff out of the gate. And this comes up. It says for one transaction in this account with this category and payee, the monthly blah blah blah, you're changing it from none to bank fees. Do you want to update all categories with this for this payee? You're going to say yes. And then you're going to see here, now here's the next one that came through, and it categorizes. So this makes a lot, that starts to make pretty quick work of this process. Now, something to note here, the information that comes through in a download is under this download payee thing, okay? And Quicken will automatically try to, in some cases, this is where it's a little confusing, in some cases Quicken will automatically try to sort of recognize something that Zelle transfer, gobbledygook, and then just make it Zelle transfer. Or this is a better example, ZG your rental DES rent to var, and then it just says ZG your rental. So basically that's a renaming rule. Now Quicken will do automatic renaming sometimes, not all the time. If it only does it sometimes, like let's use this Zelle transfer for example. So let me use a different one for an example because I want to explain a little bit more about that. Let's take this for instance. It didn't actually do a renaming rule here. You can see what it's putting over here as the payee is the same as the downloaded payee. Now if I wanted to just change this to Bayview loan, right? Okay, and I do that, and then I categorize it. I'm just going to categorize this to mortgage interest expense for now, even though it's a full mortgage payment and it has principal and interest. In another video, I'll explain how to deal with that. And I hit enter. It's going to say, hey, you rename that. Do you want to make that a renaming rule and always rename anything that's Bayview loan servicing bill pay to Bayview loan? And I'm going to say, okay. Okay, so now that I did that, said okay to that renaming, I'm going to show you here. You can go, if you go to your renaming rules, you're going to see that that renaming rule is in there. Now what's a little confusing is that Quicken will do some automatic renaming rules. Like for instance, if you look here, this, sorry, no, that one was not automatic. Let's see, did it do any automatic renaming rules in here? I guess it didn't, but oftentimes with more transactions, it will do some automatic renaming rules, just like what I did. However, when Quicken does it, the renaming rule doesn't end up in this list, and you can't edit it. So thinking of that, I'm actually going to go back to the preferences, and I'm going to make it so that the Quicken does not do an automatic renaming, and that you have to do it yourself. And I have to find that now. Downloaded transactions says automatically categorize transactions. Yes, you could do that because that will make it. Will make it over time. At this right here, it says automatically apply Quicken suggested name to payee. If we take that off, that means Quicken won't do its own renaming rules, and you can just do your own. Like I just did. And if you haven't figured it out, the point of the renaming rule is often more related to something like this, where it's ZG, your rental, DES rent, you know, and this or Zell. Let's use Zell transfer, conference, and this little gobbledygook. Well, if we have a renaming rule that says anything that has Zell transfer in it, regardless of whatever else is in it, switch to Zell transfer, then you'll have more transactions that become automatically categorized correctly. Okay. Now, another thing I'm going to point out here, you might have noticed, or I'm going to point out that Quicken here automatically categorized this transaction to checking XXXX. And you're going to notice here that the name of this account is checking XXXX. So anytime you see a category with these little brackets around it, it's actually not an expense category, it's an account, okay? And this is one thing that Quicken will allow you to do that something like QuickBooks will not, is it will allow you to categorize a transaction back into the same account that it's from, or that it's within. That is kind of breaking the rules of double entry accounting. Like QuickBooks will not let you do that. Quicken does, and that is handy actually, though it can cause kind of problems for you. So if you have a transaction categorized back into the same account, what that means is it almost is not even an existent expense in the system, okay? And you might be saying, well, why would they even allow you to then categorize stuff into accounts? Well, it's because if you had a second account, let's say I'm just going to make a quick offline credit card account, okay? Okay, so now I have a credit card here. Say, for instance, this was a credit card payment. Just say, for instance, it was. It's not, but as an example. I could then categorize that payment into the credit card, okay? And then what that does is essentially creates a transfer. And that's exactly what you do when like you pay a credit card or you transfer money from a checkings to a savings or whatever, is you categorize the transaction into the account that you're going into, right? The only time you would really ever want to categorize into the same account is for the opening balance, because this is not an expense, it's not income, it's not a transfer. It's basically just a transaction meant to get the account, into balance. And normally, in something like QuickBooks, you would actually have to put that to an account called opening balance equity. That's kind of annoying because the opening balance equity just sits in your balance sheet forever. So in Quicken, you can just categorize it into the same account, and it kind of basically makes it meaningless. It makes it just like, this transaction that inserts an amount for balancing, but does not show up as income, expense, or transfer. But the problem here is that sometimes Quicken will decide, hey, I'm going to just categorize this into the same account, even though it's not an opening balance. And if you allow that to happen, it actually makes your books inaccurate. So you want to basically go find that in your first set of downloads and get rid of that and categorize it the correct way. Now, let's see, Zell transfer. I'm actually going to categorize the Zell transfer for real now. I'm going to shorten the name of the Zell transfer, number one. Then I am going to change this was, I think, some work I had done. I'm going to change it to, let's see, rental. This is all rental stuff, so I'm going to actually categorize it under that, but I'll just put it under other expenses for now. it's going to say, hey, you're doing like a renaming rule. Do you want to save this renaming rule? Yes, I do. And what that means is like on future downloads, anything that comes through as Zell transfer number gobbledygook will actually just get shortened to Zell transfer, and it will probably get automatically categorized to this, which is the last thing I did. However, I will say that Quicken's not like perfect in understanding how to automatically categorize things. Like something like QuickBooks is a little better because you create a very predefined rule that it can follow, and Quicken's sort of like remembering its own thing. So I'm going to show you something here that's important to try to help train Quicken into categorizing things correctly. When it remembers something for auto categorization, it puts it in this memorized payee list. Okay, and this list starts out with nothing, and as you add stuff in, it's going to add stuff to this list, and then Quicken's going to refer back to this list down the road when it's trying to automatically categorize new transactions. Now you're going to notice in here, look, it remembered these Zell transfers that it categorized to this inside the checking account. We want to delete those because we want to basically delete any just, wrong stuff, as often as we can. Like, we don't have to go in and delete stuff all the time, but at the very beginning, it's very important that you go in and delete anything that kind of is memorized to be categorized within the same account. So I see there's a couple more here. I'm gonna delete those. Now, if it memorizes credit card payment going to credit card, that's fine because that's something you want to happen. Usually, it's gonna kind of do it's going to do what's in this list, but it's usually going to do the last thing that was put in the list. So if I really want to make sure that it knows, hey, every time we do Bayview loan, and we want to have it categorized to mortgage interest, you can right-click on it and then memorize payee, and then it'll usually look to that as the last thing to do. I know that's all a little probably confusing sounding, but it does take a little getting used to. Hopefully what I'm pointing out here will sort of at least give you some tips. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is go through this, all these transactions, and just make sure that they're categorized where I want them to be. So we did bank fees. So Merit Home Mortgage, that's a mortgage payment. FYI, again, this account is for a couple rental properties. So we have income from rental properties, and then we have mortgage payments. So we're going to put that to, I don't know, we're going to put that to mortgage interest expense for now. I'm going to do another video where I explain how you break up your properties and do a per property setup. So what I'm doing here for my rental properties, I wouldn't normally do. I wouldn't combine income and expense for two rental properties into sort of one grouping of, rental property income expense. I basically have this set up for every property, and then you can basically be seeing how each property is performing, and that's important. Now, these here, this is actually deposits from rent. They actually come through Zillow. I use Zillow to collect rent. And there's a category in here called rental income. Normally I have, again, this the income and expense for each property, kind of, do it per property. But for now, I'm just going to put this in rental income. But you see that it automatically put it in personal income, but it's not. So I'm going to change that. And then it's going to say, hey, we see some other ZG, your rental deals. Do you want to change them all? I'm going to say yes. We faked that this was a credit card payment. I'm going to leave that. That's fine. Let's see. Zelle transfer. This one, Zelle, like things like PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, they're kind of tough because they can be a variety of things. So you kind of have to just take those case by case and go, oh yeah, that Zelle was for, you know, lawn and care. That Zelle was for a handyman, and categorize that stuff appropriately. Same goes for Amazon. Amazon's tough because it could be anything, at Amazon. But let's see. That one I put to other expenses. This mortgage interest, that's good. PHP mortgage. Do another mortgage. I'm going to do that to mortgage expense. Yes, I want to have all the PHP go to mortgage expense. Right, Florida insurance. We should have a category in here for insurance, I would think. But anyway, there's no category under rental properties for insurance, so I'm just going to put it to other expenses for now. I will say that my templates don't really break down the rental stuff super well. I kind of just stuck with the standard stuff that kind of comes in a standard Quicken file. Heads up. Online banking transfer. Okay, so this actually was money I transferred into this account from another account. Okay, but I don't have that other account in here set up. But I'm gonna set up a quick offline checking account. I'm gonna call it other account. And this is just for illustration purposes. Now, if you recall back to when I started this video, if I had put in all my accounts, I'd probably have the other account that this money came from, and it would get categorized to that. But I'm just going to put it in my other account for now, and that represents essentially a transfer. What's this Zelle? $13.95. I'm just going to put that to other expense again. Rental Prestige ZG. It got updated when that dialog box came up, and it said, "Do you want to change all those?" It got updated. I'm going to put this other mortgage to mortgage interest and expense. Now you might recall that up here I did a renaming rule, right? Of Bayview Loan Service to Bayview Loan. If you add a new renaming rule, it won't apply to transactions that are already in the register. It'll only apply to new ones that come through. Just heads up. Okay, one thought. I mentioned over here that we were transferring between one account to another. So there's another preference that I want to point out that I want to turn off so you don't get messed up. Transfer detection. Quicken tries to be smart, and like if you have multiple accounts and you're transferring money between one to the other and you download transactions for all accounts, well, on one account that you transferred from, there's going to be an expense for $2,000. And then on another account that you sent the money into, a downloaded transaction is going to come through as a deposit for $2,000. Well, Quicken will try to say, hey, I recognize that you get $2,000 coming out of this account, $2,000 going into that account. Is that a transfer between accounts? If it is, I'll just set that up for you. You don't want it to do that because again, it'll kind of get it wrong at first. So you can scan downloaded transactions for possible transfer because it might pick it up and recognize it, and it might save you time, but you at least want to say confirm possible transfers before entering into register so it doesn't do it automatically, because otherwise it might, really screw you up. Okay, so I've downloaded all the transactions for that initial download, and it only took me back to August 2nd, but I want to actually take this account all the way back to January 1st, okay? So what I'm going to do is log into my online banking, and I'm going to download those transactions into a Quicken file that I can import. So I'll probably cut out so I can log into my bank account. I'll see what I can leave in to illustrate this for you. But Stand by. Okay, I've logged into my bank account. I'm going to try to blur out what I can, but I want to show you this. The way Bank of America allows you to download stuff for Quicken is as follows. In this case, I hit download here. I create a custom date range. If you recall, the last transaction that was downloaded was August 2nd. So what I'm going to do is choose, I want transactions from January 1st to August 1st, right up to the day before. And then in Bank of America it says select file type, and you can do a Web Connect for Quicken 2018 and above. And this is what I do, and this is kind of, you could import transactions in a variety of ways, but the next best thing to downloading directly into the software is doing a Web Connect file. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to download those transactions, and it's going to create a file here. All right, I'm going to close this. Now, because as I've mentioned in the past, I'm working on Parallels, I'm going to drag that folder over to my Parallels desktop, my Windows desktop and Parallels. And then I'm going to go File, Import, Web Connect File, Desktop, which is where I saved it. Oh, that was Mac Desktop, sorry. I need Windows Desktop. There it is. I'm going to open it. Then it's going to ask me, oh, I see you're importing transactions. Do you want to create a new account, or do you want to import them into an existing? I'm going to import to an existing, and I'm going to import. And it's going to show me all the transactions that it downloaded, and it looks just like I imported them, directly. Now, what's going to happen is, and what should happen, well, we're going to find out, is because I made some renaming rules in here, I'm going to do a renaming rule of this one too. Let's see. See if we can do that. Okay, so here we go. We're going to test this theory. I'm going to accept all these transactions, and we're going to see if we have a lot of success with renaming rules and what have you. Well, the Bayview loan renaming rule worked. That was good. And look, it categorized it correctly. So I guess, I wanted to do this video to point out that the categorization and the memorization in Quicken is okay. Like, as you tweak it and kind of make it better and get rid of some of the bogeys, it gets better and better. But it definitely does take some finesse at the beginning. So it is what it is. I'm sure, I wouldn't doubt that you got a lot of these same problems in any other program. Now, in this case, the ZG rental thing, it didn't give me the dialog box to recategorize them all. So there's another tool you can use to mass recategorize stuff, and it's called re-categorize, or it's also there's re-categorize, which is specifically recategorizing, but there's also a tool called find and replace that does multiple things, including recategorizing. And I always forget where find and replace is in here in the menus. There we go, find and replace. It looks pretty much just like recategorizing, but it allows you to do more than just recategorize. You can retag, you can change memos, you can do a bunch of things. So I'm actually going to look up anything with ZG, for example. Okay, it brought up a whole bunch of transactions. You can see some of them are categorized correctly because I just manually did it, and some are not. I am going to mass recategorize those right now to rental income, and then place selected. Now keep in mind, like when you set up for the first time, you're doing a lot of mass transactions and it's a little bit more work. But I do this every couple of weeks. I go download my transactions and you're only dealing with a few at a time, and you just, look at the categories. A lot of it, for me at this point, is auto-categorized correctly, but I verify it, and then some things are new and they don't get categorized at all, and you put in the category, and then you save it and memorize it, and it's not as much work as it is to do a whole year's worth of transactions. Now, this account, because it's just from real estate rentals, it doesn't have a lot of transactions for the whole year. Look at that. But your regular checking account would have hundreds. So it is a lot of work to start in, end of October and then try to back import data for the whole year for all your checking and savings accounts, your brokerage, your credit cards. I mean, it's a bunch of work. People pay me to actually do that for them. It's called catch-up, accounting. And like sometimes people will pay me just to like do all the data entry, get it all set up for the year, get Quicken all going, and then teach them how to use Quicken going forward. And they can avoid the setup, but they, do the work ongoing. They don't pay me for that. Other people pay me to get it all set up, and just every month they pay me to do all the bookkeeping. And then, of course, in my case, being more of a CFO character, I do tax planning, I do prep for the CPA, I do financial analysis for their business, I do a whole bunch of other things. But I also do the bookkeeping. Well, actually now I have an employee that helps me do the bookkeeping part because I have too many clients and it's getting to be too much. But anyway, I still do my own. Okay, so this is important. So remember the opening balance? I talked to you about that. Well, we have to fix this because we need to make our opening balance be from 1/1 now. Or really, it's actually opening balance would be from 12/31/2020. And the way I get the correct opening balance is I go into online banking, I download the statement from December 2020, I look at the ending statement amount of 2020, and I put that in. All right, I figured out that the balance in the account at that time was that. Okay. Are you sure you want to modify the account opening balance? Yes. And now I should probably be in balance, but you're going to notice in here that the online balance versus the ending balance currently is not correct. They're not matched up, and they basically should be. So I think I actually, because I downloaded transactions kind of outside the direct download and then I changed the opening balance, I probably have to update this account and let it go kind of retrieve updated information, and hopefully that's going to resolve that. If not, I have to figure out what the problem is. Look at that. It resolved it. Good. So now I have all the transactions in this account. They're all categorized. These two are matching up, which is kind of a good general way to know that your books are regularly kind of up to date. But sometimes these numbers don't match because sometimes you have transactions in your register that haven't come through yet. Sometimes you have pending transactions on your bank account that it'll pull the balance inclusive of the pending transactions, but you won't have the pending transactions come through until they're cleared. So every month you want to reconcile, or every few months you want to reconcile using the reconcile function to make sure that your bookkeeping is accurate to reality. I'll do a video on reconciling. Let's see, what else did I want to point out about this? Oh, let's just go look at the results, by the way. I'm going to do a little report here. I'm not going to go through the details of reports as of yet. but I am going to do a yearly report, current year, and basically what we're going to see here is how the data gets aggregated. Now this particular bank fee I didn't put under the rental income, I saw that, so we're going to move that. And now this is all under real estate. This is the income, and these were the expenses. Now, let's just, for an example here, I'm just going to show you what happens if I don't have a category. Now, actually, this is something, thinking about QuickBooks, QuickBooks will not allow you to have an uncategorized transaction. It has a category called uncategorized transactions, and it would have to go in there if you didn't know where to categorize it in QuickBooks. Quicken allows you to have no category, and when you have that, when you go to reports, it shows up as uncategorized. So if you missed categorizing anything, it'll show up in the report as uncategorized, and then you can categorize. So looking at the report is kind of like, summarizing all the work you've done and making sure that it's, it's all been found, all been categorized, and so on. Now, back to that whole issue of things categorized into the same account. If you notice here, this amount of money, it's categorized into this account. It would not show up on a report because it's not categorized to an expense or income. Transfers do not show up on reports generally. Now, you can include transfers on a report, but even when you do that, it still doesn't show up because it's not actually transferred from one account to another. It's just been nested within its own account, and basically what that means is it just doesn't show up. So if that was an actual expense or income or something like that, and it was mistakenly categorized to be to the account itself, it would not show up in your reporting, and you kind of wouldn't even know, and essentially you'd be looking at inaccurate books. So it's really important that you identify where that's happening. After you do your initial transactions, go to your memorized transactions list, find out anything that's going there, and delete it. As you can see, look, it says opening balance going there. I'm going to delete that. That way, you want to try to basically delete anything that would tell Quicken to categorize something there automatically. So usually in the beginning, like of setting up an account, I'll come in here and try to clean up this memorized transactions kind of regularly. But because over time, this thing gets full and full and full and full and so full that it's harder to do that. So when you can tidy it up when it's lesser transactions, the better. The other thing you can do in regards to that is when it comes to memorized transactions, you can tell the software how long to keep them before it purges them. So let's see where that is. Okay, here. Under data entry quick fill, remove memorized pays not used in the last 14 months. I put this like the last 6 months because otherwise, you could have years and years and years of stuff in there. Okay. I know that seems like a lot. I guess it is. But if you take it kind of step by step and just get the system working well, it'll pay dividends down the road and you'll have less ongoing errors. More videos to come. Bye.